got.
This meeting is being recorded and audio streamed via the Council website and Facebook. Good afternoon, councillors, staff and members of the public. Please be upstanding for our Mayor, Councillor Straub.
Thank you, Mr Fitzgerald. Our opening affirmation. We, the councillors of Loddon Shire, declare that we will carry out our duties in the best interest of the community, and through collective leadership we will maintain the highest standards of good governance.
Loddon Shire Council acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land upon which we are gathered and pays our respects to elders both past and present. Please be seated.
All right. Thank you, Mr Fitzgerald. Thank you, councillors. Welcome to our May Loddon Shire Council meeting. I'd like to thank and welcome our gallery today here at the Loddon Shire Chamber, and for those streaming in via the live streaming option. We are having a little technical issue at the moment with our audio and our microphones here in the chamber, but while we can, I think we will push on and see if we can't rectify the issue as we go. So I will persist. There is no apologies for today's meeting, and councillors, is there any conflicts of interest to declare? No conflicts to declare? Thank you. All right, we seem to have rectified the microphone problem, so that will make things a little bit easier as we progress on. Now, councillors, we do have a public question today, and as per the governance rules, I do seek a motion to suspend standing orders to allow for the questions to be put today. So the motion I seek, councillors, is that council suspends standing orders in accordance with Governance Rule 65, subclause 5, while questions submitted by members of the public are put to council. Is there a councillor to move to that motion? Thank you, Councillor Holt. A councillor to second. Thank you, Councillor Weaver. A show of hands in favour, and that motion is carried and standing orders are suspended. Councillors, we have two questions today from a member of the public, and I will read the first question and will refer an answer to the relevant directors. Councillors, the first question we have been or has been submitted is number 1. Can council please provide an update on the number of open audit recommendations currently outstanding, including how many are overdue and the specific reason for any delays in implementation? Now, councillors, I'm going to ask Director Steadman if she has a reply to that question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Straub. In response to the question, and thank you to the member of the public who has asked it, at its May meeting, Council's Audit and Risk Committee received a quarterly report on 30 open audit actions, with 4 actions being completed during the quarter. 17 of the 26 open actions had surpassed their identified due date, and 16 of those were rated medium or low risk. One of the actions is rated high, but it is 85% complete. Implementation of actions is resource dependent and prioritised according to level of risk and considered alongside business as usual council functions. Thank you, Mayor Straub.
Thank you, Director Steadman, for that response. Now, councillors, our second question, number 2. With respect to the infrastructure and flood program quarterly update, what's at risk of slipping? Now, I'm going to throw this question to Director Van Also, and welcome, Director, to the chamber for your very first Loddon Shire meeting. Director do you have a response for us today?
Thank you, Mayor Straub. Yes, I'm pleased to advise that the annual infrastructure program and flood restoration program is progressing as expected. Thank you, Mayor Straub.
Thank you, Director. In that case, councillors, I believe at this point in time those questions have been answered relevant to the questions asked, and I hope that has provided some clarity for the member of the public asking those questions. With saying that, I believe we can now move on, and councillors, can I please now have a motion to resume standing orders? And the motion that I seek is that council resume standing orders. Do I have, thank you, Councillor Wilson. The councillor to second, thank you, Councillor Angelo. A show of hands in favour, and that is carried. We will now continue on with the standing orders of today's meeting. Item 5, our previous minutes, and 5.1, the confirmation of minutes. Councillors, I will take those minutes as being read. Is there any questions, comments, queries regarding the minutes of the last meeting? If not, I'll ask for a councillor to please move that those minutes be true and correct. Thank you, Councillor Weaver. The councillor to second. Thank you, Councillor Angelo. And a show of hands in favour. Those minutes are carried. Thank you very much. Item 6, cancel auspiced meetings. 6.1 is the record of council's auspiced meetings. I'll ask Mr Fitzgerald, please.
Thank you, Mayor Straub. Rule 35 of Council's governance rules requires a record of meetings conducted under the auspices of Council to be presented to the next available scheduled Council meeting for confirmation. Attached to this report is a record of which councillors and officers attended 2 of the most recent meetings, a summary of the matters which were considered, and a record of any conflicts of interest which were disclosed. The recommendation, councillors, is that Council confirm the records of the following auspiced meetings as detailed within this report. 1. The Council briefing held 22 April 2025 and the Council forum held on 13 May 2025. Thank you, Mayor Straub.
Thank you, Mr Fitzgerald. Councillors, I'll ask if there's any questions, queries or comments. Otherwise, I'll ask for a councillor to move a motion that those auspiced meetings be tabled. Thank you, Councillor Angelo. The councillor to second. Thank you, Councillor Wilson. A show of hands in favour, and that is carried. Thank you very much. Review of actions, 7.1, the review of action sheets, and I'll ask Mr Fitzgerald again, please.
Thank you, Mayor Straub. Councillors, it has been a long-held practice that the CEO provides an update to councillors at each council meeting regarding the implementation status of resolutions made by council. A document containing the status of those actions and the resolutions themselves are attached to this agenda report. There were 9 actions arising from the April Council meeting resolutions, which have been completed. There is still 1 action from that meeting relating to the proposed amendments to Council's governance rules, which has progressed. And And the recommendation is that Council receive and note the status of Council resolution actions as attached to this report. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Fitzgerald. Councillors, if there's any questions, queries or comments? Councillor Holt, question?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. Question, have we received feedback on the Council's community engagement policy? I understand.
Inclusive communities.
So the resolution, moved Councillor Holt, seconded Councillor Angelo, that Council endorse the release of the draft revenue and rating plan for the purposes of seeking feedback in line with Council's community engagement policy. So that was the 23rd of April. Any feedback received?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Holt. I believe Director Steadman may have a response there.
Yes, thank you, and through you, Mayor. So the revenue and rating plan, the draft annual budget and the draft fees and charges schedule have been out for community consultation in line with our community engagement policy, Councillor Holt. Any feedback received from all three of those pieces of work will be provided to councillors at an upcoming councillor forum with a view to consider those documents at the next scheduled council meeting.
Thank you, Director Steadman. Councillor Holt.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and forgive me on this one. The draft budget. So this was published to the website with media distributed to the relevant outlets. That's dated 23rd of April. So, two questions. When we do that, there would be a closing date? Well, my first question is, when was that? Do we know, or off the cuff, or is it required?
Yeah, 5 o'clock last night was the closing for submissions.
So then the obvious relevant question is, did we receive any submissions?
Thank you, Councillor Holt. I think Mr Fitzgerald may have an answer, or Director Steadman.
I'm aware of one submission that was received, however I haven't checked as of last night.
Thank you, Mr Fitzgerald. Councillor Holt?
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
No worries. Thank you very much. Okay. If there's no further questions regarding those actions, I'm going to ask if there's a councillor prepared to move that those actions be tabled. Thank you, Councillor Angelo. A councillor to second. Thank you, Councillor Weaver. A show of hands in favour, and they are carried. Thank you, councillors. Thank you for those questions too. Moving along to item 8, and 8.1 is the mayoral report, and it has been a very busy month. The month of May tends to be quite a busy month for council activity, and this has been no different from any other year. Starting off with the April, or the end of April, so it was the 29th of April, which I'll add into this report. The meeting of the Loddon Healthy Minds Network in Tarnagalla was one of the meetings I attended, and it was great to have a good representation of our network partners in Tarnagalla for that meeting. The Loddon Healthy Minds Network is very important, I feel, and it's great that Loddon Shire can coordinate that network of those agencies that deliver such needed help and support through the mental health parameters throughout regional Victoria, and it is great to have Director Gladman at the helm of that one too, directing and coordinating for the benefit of all Loddon constituents. later that afternoon, as my delegation to the Local Learning and Employment Network, I attended a meeting with the CEO of the North Central LEN, Jane Hosking, in a joint meeting with the Department of Education to discuss ongoing contracts for the LEN. Discussions are still happening, but the Department of Education is actually trying to downplay ongoing 3-year contracts and bring in line with a 12-month contract, which gives a lot of uncertainty to the delivery of the School to Work program, unfortunately. That's something that we'll continue to work closely with and advocate strongly on. So we've got some consistency in the parameters of delivering those programs and our partnership with North Central LEN moving forward. It's very important that we have those pathways for our youth, as I've mentioned many, many times before. I'll keep updated on how that is progressing. Moving along to Wednesday the 30th of April, I attended an online meeting with Gunawarra, Bullock and Yarriambiack, where we had the opportunity to meet with Minister D'Ambrosio, which I think I've mentioned in a previous report. The meeting happened on Wednesday the 30th. I attended online. It gave us a real opportunity to discuss with the Minister more arising issues around the VNI West Powerline project that is circumnavigating the state, and especially the impacted landowners in Loddon. And I'll get more on that as we move along this report. But it was a great opportunity to really put those concerns from our Loddon constituents straight to the Minister, but also have a bigger overarching regional perspective and conversation. And we do thank the Minister for her time, and it was a very productive meeting, I felt. Moving on, as we all know, May was an election month, a federal election month. I won't report too much on that. We all know the results, and we all thank and congratulate those candidates and returning MPs to their seat who will represent us federally moving forward. And here in Mallee, the federal seat of Mallee, we do congratulate Dr. Anne Webster on her return to her seat for another 3 years. Look forward to working with Dr. Webster through all things local government and all things federal government as we move along. I took the opportunity to meet with the Pyramid Hill Historical Society and just ongoing talks about possibilities for their next adventures through a new precinct development that we're edging towards. There'll be more to come on that as we keep moving forward. I'm going to skip ahead in today's report and talk about a very important day that myself and my fellow councillors took part in last Tuesday the 20th, where it was great to see all Loddon councillors, including our CEO, travel to Melbourne and join fellow Loddon Shire constituents in a very worthwhile rally in voicing our real concerns around the current parameters of the Emergency Services Volunteer Fund levy, or the tax as it's been dubbed. We travelled down there in support of our community and in support of the real on-the-ground monetary effect that this will have to Loddon ratepayers and the unfairness of the parameters of local government collecting a state tax. We'll put it pretty bluntly. We will have more to say on this afternoon as we move through our agenda, but I'd really like to congratulate those Loddon constituents that organised buses, that gave up their precious time to travel to Melbourne to protest with with us, alongside us, for a very worthwhile cause. We may not have had much change since that rally protest last week from the state government, but nonetheless, we had to stand up and voice our opinions on the matter. And it was great to do it with such support from those Loddon residents and our regional partners that did travel down to Melbourne for that day. Councillors, I'm going to conclude my mayoral report there, and I will seek a motion I can actually move a motion myself that report be tabled, and ask if there's a councillor willing to second that. Thank you, Councillor Angelo. A show of hands in favour, and that is carried. Thank you, councillors. We'll continue to move on to our council reports, 9.1, and today I'm going to start with Councillor Holt. Councillor Holt's ready?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On the 29th of April, with the CEO, we met with the Wedderburn community members of Loddon Shire's Community Reference Group, Louise Cook, Daryl Arnott and Tammy Steele, and I think that was a very productive meeting, in particular for our CEO to get a feeling for the thoughts and priorities of the Wedderburn chapter of that reference group. On the 5th of May, I attended as the council rep the meeting of the Loddon Shire Internal Audit and Risk Committee. The internal audit presented to that meeting was regarding Loddon Shire's procurement policy and procedures, and councillors, you will have seen that report in the minutes of that meeting that you received, which of course is also then available to the public. On the 13th, we all attended the forum here in the council chambers. On the 16th of May, I attended the Municipal Association of Victoria State Council meeting at the Melbourne Town Hall, and our mayor and CEO also in attendance. I think you were there, Lincoln. You must have struck me down. Can I say, Mr. Mayor, that I felt that the response of the MAV to the very serious situation regarding the now legislated Emergency Services and Volunteers Levy, remembering that was actually passed through the Parliament on Thursday night, Friday morning of the MAV State Council. It would be my observation, and I think you agree with me, Mr. Mayor, that you'd have to call the MAV State Council meeting at best modest. And finally, Mr. Mayor, as you referenced, the 20th of May protest in Melbourne, where large numbers of rural Victorians in particular attended a meeting or a gathering in Spring Street regarding this new tax. Can I say, Mr. Mayor, in all my time in public life, I haven't seen the people of Loddon as upset by a proposed piece of legislation, and now in fact a piece of legislation, as this. I'm describing it as unfair and inequitable. And I look forward, Mr Mayor, to Loddon Shire Council's response later in the day when we discuss this matter. And I'd also like to congratulate Mr Fitzgerald on taking the time to get some high-level legal advice to us, placing parameters around what we can do to the full extent of our powers and capabilities to work towards this piece of legislation being repealed. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Holt, and very well said. I must sort of add too, it is very refreshing, and we're very privileged, Loddon, to have such a great CEO that really gets it. I couldn't help myself just to add that one in on there. But we'll move on. I'm going to go straight to Councillor Weaver for your council report.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. On Monday the 5th, I attended the Bort Tourism and Development meeting in Bort, which was a good meeting. Anzac Day, we had the first dawn service at Mysia, which was very well attended, and congratulations must go to the organising committee. It was a very moving tribute. Adam Wright's flyover at dawn was special, and then I also attended and laid a wreath at the service in the Bort Town Hall, which was nearly filled the hall. Bort sub-branch of the RSL should be commended on their commitment to the service every year, and they run a great service. The town levy works are progressing very well, and contractors and council staff are to be commended. It's being very well done, and in a very timely manner. I also attended the rally in Melbourne in support of our local ratepayers, and I congratulate those from Loddon that took the time out to attend. And due to the time of year it was, for everyone that attended, there was people at home feeding sheep, cutting water the stock and putting the crop in. I've never seen so much despair and anguish in my community surrounding this inequitable and unfair tax, and I don't think in the history of this state a government's ever bitten the hand that's fed it so hard. Last night we had our first online meeting with our community reference groups online, and all the groups together. It was chaired by Mr Fitzgerald, and I congratulate all the other councillors on their selections of their people for their committee, because it's a really great group. I think there'll be some very positive outcomes out of it, and that's all I've got. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Weaver. Excuse me. I'll go to Councillor Wilson, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Since the last council meeting, I attended the Anzac Day services on the 25th of April at both Bridgewater and Inglewood. It was fantastic to see the amount of children involved and engaged in the Anzac Day ceremonies. Bridgewater had a bumper turnout. On the 1st of May, I attended the Inglewood Development and Tourism Committee meeting, which is a monthly meeting, which is always very interesting about the progress of things going on within the Inglewood area. On the 4th of May, I attended the Inglewood Rec Reserve quarterly meeting, which is busy looking at the development of the master plan for the Inglewood Reserve, which again is another very interesting project that's in the pipeline. On the 7th of May, I was involved with Mr Fitzgerald in the introductory meeting to the Community Vision and Ward Rep meeting, just to start this process with introducing the ward representatives to this Community Vision review. On the 5th of May, I attended the Audit and Risk Committee meeting, as the proxy for Councillor Holt. On the 14th of May, I was lucky enough to be invited to the launch of the Healthy Schools project at St Mary's in Inglewood, which is a fantastic project developing vegetable gardens within schools for the children to understand about planting, harvesting and cooking fresh vegetables. This was just a delightful afternoon to join the kids to look at what they did and then harvest the pak choy they had grown and were going to take home to their families to cook for dinner, which I thought was marvellous. That evening I attended the Cura Women's Network dinner, which is a fantastic group of women that come together every month from all over the ward, well, all over the district. On the 15th of May, I joined Mayor Straub and the CEO Fitzgerald for a landholder impact meeting with landholders who've been impacted by the proposed transmission lines to hear their views. We were also joined by the rep from the Victorian Farmers Federation to look at how we can support these landholders in the next stage of what's going to occur with these transmission lines going through their properties. On the 23rd of May, I joined the Inglewood Elderly Persons Unit project group, which is run by the Lions, which oversee the 2 flats in Inglewood that service 2 elderly residents in that area. And then yesterday, I joined the online community vision planning meeting and then also had a meeting with key stakeholders from the Inglewood Streetscape stakeholders group who are really beginning to ramp up the comms around the proposed streetscape project, notwithstanding putting in applications for funding, but certainly the work has commenced, as people will see, with the community petrol station having been demolished on the corner there in Inglewood at Brook Street. So, as you say, Mayor Straub, it has been a very busy month.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. It sure has been. And I'll finish today with our councillor reports, and I'll ask Councillor Angelo, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Pardon me, on the 25th of April for Anzac Day, I attended services at Eddington and Riola. On the 9th of May, I attended a community planning meeting in Tarnagoa. And as all's been stated by my the other councillors, I did attend the rally on the 20th down in Melbourne in support for our constituents. And it's in my eyes, it's unjust, it's unfair, it's un-Australian, and shame on you for imposing this levy on our constituents and our communities. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Angelo. Councillors, thank you for those reports. It has been a busy month, and there has been a lot of. I suppose the Councillor Angelo sort of sums it up pretty well. The distress on our community at the moment is apparent, and we do find comfort in uniting together and supporting each other through these times. Councillors, I'm seeking a motion that those council reports be tabled. So thank you, Councillor Weaver. Councillor prepared to second. Thank you, Councillor Angelo. A show of hands in favour, and those reports are tabled. Thank you, councillors. We'll continue to move on, and we have, councillors, 7 reports for decision today. and we have all had a good look at our agendas over the past week. And we'll start with 10.1, our planning application 6042, the use and development of the land for a rural industry olive oil processing facility and the use and development of the land for rural workers' accommodation. And I'll ask, please, Director Van also to deliver the report and recommendation.
Thank you, Mayor Straub. This planning application 6042 has been brought to Council for a decision as an objection has been received. Officers have discussed this application with Councillor earlier today at the briefing session. The officer's recommendation before you is take the recommendation as read. That includes the 15 conditions outlined. Thank you, Mayor Straub.
Thank you, Director Van also. Councillors, we did have the opportunity in our briefing session to discuss the matter, but I'll open it up if there is any further questions, clarifications before I seek a motion to the recommendation as written, including the 15 considerations that are attached in our agendas. If there's no questions, I'll ask for a councillor prepared to move to that recommendation. So thank you, Councillor Angelo. I didn't see you there. Councillor Holt to second. Thank you. Councillor Angelo, would you like the opportunity to speak to the motion? Councillor Holt? Is there any other councillors wishing to speak for or against? Councillor Holt, you reserved your right. You've got a right of reply if wanted.
Not being exercised, Mr Mayor.
In that case, I'll ask for a show of hands in favour, and that is carried. Thank you, councillors. 10.2, financial report for the quarter ending 31 March 2025. I'll ask, please, Director Steadman for the report.
Thank you, Mayor Straub. Councillors, presented to you today is Loddon Shire Council's quarterly report for period ending 31 March 2025. Council maintains a cash surplus of 8.77 million with a net operating surplus to date of 12.26 million, where 63% of the anticipated revenue has been received, but expenses trail with contracts and materials expenditure reflecting financial delays in capital works and ongoing flood recovery approvals. Budget revisions are also provided to Council for consideration to return funds to surplus where operational savings have been noted and to particularly recognise the higher than anticipated interest income received. Collection of rates to March 31 is also acknowledged as falling slightly behind March last year. The current operating surplus compares against the revised budget operating deficit of nearly 3.4 million, and this anticipates a marked increase in expenditure over quarter four, of which we've already seen substantial progress in the last 2 months. However, it's likely that budgeted revenue targets associated with the flood recovery program in particular will remain unmet given the progress of claim approvals to date. And while financial delivery can often be a lag indicator, I'd encourage councillors and the public to consider these figures in conjunction with item 11.8 on today's agenda, being the annual infrastructure and flood program quarterly report update for further information regarding on-the-ground delivery. Interest on investments and supplementary valuations continue to be positives for the quarter, with ongoing strong performance across our term deposits and supplementary valuations showing strong growth in capital improved value across Loddon properties. And councillors are asked to consider approving these supplementary valuations and their incorporation into the register of rateable and non-rateable properties and rate book for 24-25. Councillors, the recommendation with you today is that Council receives and notes the finance report for the quarter ending 31 March 2025. 2, approves budget revisions included in the report for internal reporting purposes only. And 3, approves the supplementary valuations of rateable and non-rateable properties in respect to the 24-25 financial year as returned by the Shire Valuer LG Valuations Proprietary Limited, and endorses them being incorporated into the register of rateable and non-rateable properties and rate book for 24-25. Thank you, Mayor Straub.
Thank you, Director Steadman. Councillors, opportunity for any late questions. Councillor Holt with a question.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I have a comment and a question. Thanks to Finance for this report. There's a lot of information in there which would be very valuable, not only to councillors, but to the ratepayers of Loddon. I think it's particularly enlightening to see the explanation as to why our surplus position at the end of last financial year has grown from 5.5 million to 8.7 million. I also, just a question on overdue rates, and this may be able to be answered by Director Steadman, but I noticed at the end of March 25, rates overdue were 485,000. My first question is, those ratepayers who pay by instalment is the last of the 4 instalments, is that June? What I'm wanting to know is, would the bulk of the $485,000 outstanding, it's doubled same time last year. I'm looking for an explanation. And I'm asking, is part of that could be people who choose to pay by instalment still owe a quarterly instalment. I imagine it's the first quarter is September, so June would be the last quarter, but that doesn't explain the doubling. And I'm thinking, particularly, I know, interestingly, sitting down under there, we've got a thing called the Fire Services Property Levy overdue. Imagine what that may be this time next year, Mr Mayor. But I'm just wondering, is that increase in overdue rates, and it seems high by our standards, reflective of anything?
Councillor Holt, I think we can put that question to Director Steadman and see if she can offer any explanation or answer to that.
Thank you, Mayor Straub. So to clarify, our 4th instalment payment is due on 31 May. And this year we have had more ratepayers take up an instalment option. There may be overdue amounts within that instalment option that are included in that figure. However, it's overdue based on the instalment dates. Is that clear, Councillor Holt?
Yes. So if you've chosen to pay by instalments, even though you've chosen to do that, if we get a report at a point in time and there's still an instalment date due, that instalment is looked upon as overdue. Yes or no?
Director Steadman?
I will clarify, Councillor Holt, but I would expect no, because there's an instalment date that we've entered into an agreement with the ratepayer. If they miss the instalment date, that I would suggest that it's that point that it's classified as an overdue account.
Thank you, Director Steadman. Councillor Holt.
No, look, I think we'll get an explanation for this. looking at the financial health of our municipality, that was just a little flag. In relation to Officer Stedman's last statement, I've never paid my rather considerable rates in instalments. I've always paid them in bulk in February, but I've never entered into an arrangement. I just paid them in February.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor.
So is that just assumed?
I think Director Stedman has some clarification on that. I think I know part of the.
Yeah, so when a ratepayer does not make a payment by the first instalment date of an instalment amount, it is then reverted to a full payment due on in February, and if there's quarterly instalments made, that reverts that account to the instalment plan based on the quarterly payments that are outlined in our rate notices.
Thanks, Director Stedman.
Yeah, thank you, Director Stedman. Thank you, Councillor Holt. Councillors, if there's no further questions, I think we've got some good clarity there. I'm going to ask for a councillor to please move. Councillor Wilson, thank you. A councillor to second. Councillor Holt, great. Thank you very much. Councillor Wilson, would you like the opportunity to speak?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Holt to speak in.
I think effectively I have, Mr Mayor, in thanking officers for this report. Obviously, Loddon's history of financial management means that we would expect nothing less of our finance department other than a report such as this, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Holt. Yes, they do a great job. Any other councillor wishing to speak for or against? I'm going to ask for a show of hands in favour, and that is carried. Moving on to 10.3, participation in the Regional Digital Connectivity Project. Mr Fitzgerald, please.
Thank you, Mayor Straub. Loddon Shire Council has consistently advocated for improved digital and mobile connectivity across the Shire, and this is most recently demonstrated through the 2024 Council Priorities document, which continues to say that this is a priority for us. Council has had the opportunity as a part of the Murray River Group of Councils to partner with a similar organisation in New South Wales called the Riverina and Murray Joint Organisation, really to partner with Telstra to say, well, we're struggling to get any success with our funding applications, or Telstra's funding applications in this instance, to see digital connectivity improvements in the Newbridge area. So how about if we actually partner up? And this report really is about a proposal where Loddon is really being sought to partner with quite a number of other municipalities across the border and in northern Victoria to see the installation of 29 new mobile phone towers across this region. Councillors, it's detailed within this report, but it really tries to outline the case for change, which is that Newbridge has poor coverage in terms of new coverage, as well as depth of coverage, meaning when you're inside the house. So there's an opportunity here to, while we will continue to advocate for digital connectivity across our municipality, there's an opportunity here to work in partnership with quite a few others to try and leverage a little bit of, well, quite a large funding pool in a different way. The recommendation here, councillors, is that council support this digital connectivity project and approve a contribution of $1,000 towards the digital connectivity project. Thank you, Mayor Straub.
Thank you, Mr Fitzgerald. Councillors, I will give the opportunity for any questions relating to this recommendation. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor. A comment rather than a question. We have had some discussion regarding allocating $1,000 of council money to a private enterprise arrangement, and perhaps a concern that we would set a precedent in this space. We also discussed that potentially, as councillors, we review these applications on a case-by-case basis, and I feel strongly that the Newbridge case stands and holds its own in terms of this contribution to that business relationship. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Any other quick questions? I'm going to ask for Councillor to move to this recommendation. I've got Councillor Angelo. Thank you. The Councillor to second. Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Councillor Angelo, would you like the opportunity to speak to your motion?
No, thank you very much. I feel that Councillor Mickey Wilson summed it up nicely.
Thank you, Councillor Angelo. Councillor Wilson, would you like the opportunity to speak?
Nothing further. Thank you, Mayor.
Any other councillor wishing to speak for or against? Councillor Holt?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, I'm going to speak in favour of the motion because this is a great outcome for Newbridge, and communications at Newbridge for a long, long time has been a big problem. But as I raised earlier, I do have severe reservations about Loddon Shire Council contributing ratepayers' money to projects that are not our responsibility. Now, I think we all fully understand that, and you could think of many, many other areas of responsibility that seriously impact the residents and ratepayers of Loddon that we would dearly love to make a financial contribution to. None would be more topical at the moment than childcare. But we are constantly told that the long-term financial sustainability of rural councils is challenging, and so council has to be very, very careful and rational in where it allocates ratepayers' money. So I'm still happy to support the motion, Mr Mayor, but I will always bring that caveat before the council when it comes to such recommendations. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Holt. Is there any other councillor wishing to speak for or against? In that case, I will ask for a show of hands in favour, and that is carried. Thank you, councillors. 10.4, we'll move straight along to the election report. The Loddon Shire Council 2024 local government elections. We have a report in front of us, councillors, and I'm going to invite Director Stedman to please deliver that report and recommendation, please.
Thank you, Mayor Straub. Councillors, for your consideration today, I present the formal election report for the 2024 local government elections submitted by the Victorian Electoral Commission in accordance with Regulation 83 of the Local Government Electoral Regulations 2020. The report confirms that Council fulfilled all statutory obligations under the Local Government Act and electoral regulations, despite the complexities introduced by legislative changes ahead of the elections last year. Notably, voter turnout was slightly improved on the previous election at 84.79%. The report also documents candidate processes, any complaints received, and post-election activities, and forms part of the public record of electoral integrity in the Loddon municipality. Councillors, the recommendation with you today is that Council receives and notes the Victorian Electoral Commission election report, Loddon Shire Council 2024 local government elections. Thank you, Mayor Straub.
Thank you, Director Stedman. And I think too a lot of people in the public might be asking why we're getting a report on the election when the VEC conducts the elections. Well, matter of fact, Loddon pays for the local government elections, so it is very responsible that we do get these reports and we can identify the benefits out of the contribution, quite hefty contribution, that Loddon pays in the conducting of the VEC at election time. Councillors, I'll open it up for any questions regarding that report. And if there's none, we'll just ask for a councillor prepared to move and councillor prepared to second. Thank you, Councillor Weaver, to move. Is there a councillor prepared to second that motion? Thank you, Councillor Angelo. Councillor Weaver, would you like the opportunity to speak to your motion?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Angelo?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
In that case, I'll ask, is any other councillors wishing to speak for or against? If not, a show of hands in favour, and that report is carried. Thank you, councillors. Moving along to 10.5, the Bort Netball Club fee waiver and reduction application. And I'll invite Director Van also, please, to deliver the report and recommendation.
Thank you, Mayor Straub. Council's fees and charges waiver or reduction policy applies to any not-for-profit organisation, incorporated association or unincorporated community group where the activity will result in community benefit. The Bort Netball Club have applied for a planning permit fee waiver. They require the permit to comply with Loddon Planning Scheme for the installation of 4 lighting towers at the Bort Netball Courts. The project has been a community-led initiative with the Bort Netball Club managing and delivering the project. The club has requested that Council waive the planning permit application fee of $1,265.50 and the officer recommendation before you is that Council grant a fee waiver to the Bort Netball Club for a planning permit application cost of $1,265.50 for the installation of 4 lighting towers at the Bort Netball Court. Thank you, Mayor Straub.
Thank you, Director. Councillors, is there any questions before I ask for a councillor to move? This recommendation has come to us being it's just over the $1,000 fee waiver limit. So as to that, it'll come to council for a decision. Councillor Weaver, happy to move?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Councillor Weaver. Councillor to second? Thank you, Councillor Wilson, I think just got in there before. Councillor Weaver, would you like the opportunity to speak?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I thank fellow councillors for voting in favour of this and for the recommendation from Mr Also. We've got to support our community sporting groups and non-for-profit, so it's well done everyone.
Thank you, Councillor Weaver. Councillor Wilson? Is there any other councillor wishing to speak for or against? I'll ask for a show of hands in favour, and that is carried. Thank you, councillors. We will move over the page. For 10.6, the review of the financial reserve policy, and I'll invite Director Steadman, please, to deliver that report and recommendation.
Thank you again, Mayor Straub. Councillors, with you in this report is the result of a recent review of Council's financial reserve policy, and this revised version reflects Council's annual review of reserve structures with a view to ensuring alignment with Council's priorities and minimising unnecessarily constrained funds. The revised policy for your consideration today proposes the closure of 5 reserves and refines the purpose and usage of others, with Council continuing to maintain resources for high priority projects. It's noted that the process is supported by internal review as well as being endorsed by Council's Audit and Risk Committee. Councillors, the recommendation with you in this report today is that Council adopts the Financial Reserves Policy version 12. Thank you, Mayor Straub.
Thank you, Director Steadman. Councillors, I'll offer opportunity for any questions, queries or comments regarding the report and recommendation. If not, I will go straight into asking for a councillor to move a motion to the recommendation. Thank you, Councillor Angelo. Is there a councillor willing to second the recommendation or the motion? There's no... Councillor Holt?
I will
Second?
second.
Thank you, Councillor
I'll
Holt.
be exercising my right to speak, Mr Mayor.
We'll go to the mover first and ask if Councillor Angelo would like to speak. Councillor Holt, your opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm supporting this reserves policy because I think the proposed changes are reasonable. But, as I did earlier in the day, Mr Mayor, point out to our Loddon Shire councillors that Loddon Shire's history of financial management has been outstanding. And a core part of that financial management has been played by our reserves policy. Now, in the history of Loddon Shire, we have faced major challenges, including the removal of water from property for rating purposes, the worst drought since the Federation drought, the greatest flood that's ever occurred on the land that the people of Loddon Shire walk across since European settlement, the very significant calls that have been made on us by the defined benefit scheme. Now, the Loddon Shire response to the 2011 flood resulted in a complete and utter overhaul of Loddon Shire's road network. Now, in addition to the funding we received to meet the challenges of that drought, Loddon Shire, due to its ability to borrow from itself because of its reserves position, was able to bring forward by I think 5 years its equipment procurement, and was able to employ another 30 men, many of whom stayed on to become valuable members of Loddon's workforce, so greatly increased our Loddon Shire skills base, and we were able to then proceed with our own resources to rebuild that road network. And so I'm just mindful, because I hear rumblings, I'm just mindful that we as councillors need to be very, very protective of the validity and the contribution it has made to the people of Loddon of our reserves policy. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Holt. Is there any other councillor wishing to speak for or against? If not, I'll ask for a show of hands in favour. And that is carried. Thank you very much, councillors. Thank you for those contributions. 10.7 and our last decision report for today, before we move on to our information reports. Our last decision report is our North Central Goldfields Regional Library Service and funding arrangement, 1st of July 2025 to the 30th of June 2027. And I'll ask Mr Fitzgerald to please take us through that report and recommendation.
Thank you, Mayor Straub. The North Central Goldfields Regional Library Corporation has involved 4 member councils, being Bendigo, Mount Alexander, Macedon Ranges, and of course Loddon, since 1996. So quite a long time in this service, and under the current arrangement, under the new Local Government Act 2020, by 2030, so within this 10-year period, those library corporations must transfer to a new entity. So there's a lot of work going on in the background at the moment to figure out what that new non-for-profit limited by guarantee company will look like, what the constitution looks like, what the financial arrangements will look like, and so on. However, while we're doing all of that work, we need to extend our current agreement. So this report, councillors, is really seeking no change from the current arrangement. It is seeking just to extend the existing agreement by a period of up to 2 years while we undertake the legal and due diligence of what a new entity may look like to ensure that it provides the right level of service to our Loddon community and that it's affordable and efficient in the future. So, councillors, the recommendation here is that council authorise myself, the Chief Executive Officer, to enter into the service and funding agreement from 1 July 2025 to 30 June 2027 with North Central Goldfields Regional Library Corporation, and secondly, to undertake the necessary administrative actions to complete the contractual documentation. Thank you, Mayor Straub.
Thank you, Mr Fitzgerald. Councillors, any questions regarding that report or recommendation? If not, I'll ask if there's a councillor prepared to move to the recommendation. Thank you, Councillor Weaver. Councillor happy to second. Thank you, Councillor Angelo. Councillor Weaver, would you like the opportunity to speak to your motion?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Angelo?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other councillors wishing to speak for or against? I'll ask for a show of hands in favour, and that is carried. All right, moving along. Our information reports, and councillors, we have 8 reports for information today. Our first one being 11.1, the Road Management Plan Defect Rectification Compliance Report. And I'll invite Director Van Orso to deliver that report, please.
Thank you, Mayor Straub. This report summarises the good work done by Council's Works Department in maintaining a safe and suitable road network in accordance with Council's Road Management Plan during the third quarter of the 24-25 financial year. The officer recommendation before you is that Council receive and note the Road Management Plan Defect Rectification Compliance Report. Thank you, Mayor Straub.
Thank you, Director Van Orso. Councillors, I'll give the opportunity for any questions at this point. Otherwise, Councillor Weaver.
Yeah, Mr Van Orso, was the delay in the Goldfields ones just due to water restraints for the graders? I know it's a hard one given you haven't long been here, but I think that's why that would have been the hold up there. Am I correct in that?
Thank you, and through you, Mayor, I'd need to seek some advice off my colleagues if they're aware, given, only not long starting with Council. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. I think Mr Fitzgerald may have information to offer up.
Yeah, thank you for the question, and Steve, tough first meeting to get that question, but look, in many cases, access to water is a major impediment to the length of road that we can actually get through. We're often waiting for access to water from channels, etc., depending on our licences. In this instance, I believe there was also, council's hard waste collection occurred during this period, so we had staff offline addressing that as they were across the municipality, but we also had people moving seats as well during this period to cover some staff changeover as well. So just probably a number of factors in this case. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Weaver, for the question. Councillors, if there's no further questions regarding that report, the compliance report, I'll ask if Councillor is prepared to move to the recommendation that Council receives and notes that report. Thank you, Councillor Weaver. A councillor to second. Thank you, Councillor Holt. Councillor Weaver, I'll give you the opportunity to speak to your motion if you'd like.
No, thank you. I think I've covered my only query. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Holt. Any other councillors wishing to speak for or against? I'll ask for a show of hands in favour, and that is carried. 11.2, our Library Services Quarterly Activity Report. Mr Fitzgerald, please.
Thank you, Mayor Straub. Councillors, this is the quarter from January to March 2025. And I've just explained a moment ago what the library service is, so I won't go over sort of the background. However, just to point out a few really key things, the contribution of Loddon Shire for this quarter was $54,000. And the methodology for our contribution towards the library is very, very efficient in terms of how we all work together to share the overhead costs. I do want to point out, though, that this once dollar for dollar funded service has the funding for it has been frozen for the last 3 or 4 years with no increase, meaning that it's actually grown to 75.25% funded by local government in this region, with the remainder coming from the Victorian government. So there's been a real shift from that dollar for dollar scenario, and I think it's relevant to some other conversations you've had today. I'd also just like to share a few of the really fantastic things that happen at our libraries. They provide an outlet and an opportunity for our community that isn't provided through other services in Loddon Shire Council. So while around 15% of the community are members of the library, it's really important to see that through our statistics that we get through the library board, Councillor Angelo and myself, we get to see that the statistics are really rebounding post-COVID. So we're comparing how we were before COVID hit and people couldn't go to a library to today, and we've seen the numbers have rebounded while the numbers are back to where they used to be. The fantastic thing is that our e-library, so access to digital books, online content and so on, has gone from strength to strength. So it really hasn't dropped off. So we're seeing a lot more access to our services in different ways, as well as being back to our old model. In addition to that, we've had just some pretty fantastic activities. So the Bort Library Agency had the author Jenny Date come and talk about her book, What Happened to the Girl from the Mallee. So, you know, a really nice, talented person from the region come and actually talk about life in rural Victoria. We've also had our agencies delivering digital literacy workshops so people can understand how to use programs such as WordPress, create web pages, those sorts of things to try and build the skills of our community. As well as that, the library has a service which is for book clubs. So if anyone's interested in a book club, what the library has done is it's purchased a large number of sets of the same book. So you can all hire it at the same time, read it, discuss it and so on. So they're just some of the fantastic programs that have been offered, and I could go on and on about story time and the access for our younger community members to early years learning through this service. So, councillors, the recommendation of this report is that council receive and note the Loddon Shire Council Library Services Quarterly Activity Report for the January to March 2025 period. Thank you, councillors.
Thank you, Mr Fitzgerald. Councillors, if there is any questions, we'll create the opportunity to ask them now. If not, I will ask if there's a councillor prepared to move. Councillor Angelo, thank you. Councillor prepared to second that motion. Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Councillor Angelo, would you like the opportunity to speak to your motion?
Not really.
Sorry, Councillor Angelo, your microphone.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. It's a great program, and it fully needs our support, as well as other councils supporting it, and it can move forward and forward. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Wilson, would you like to speak?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Is there any other councillor wishing to speak for or against? I'll ask for a show of hands in favour, and that information report is carried. Moving along to 11.3, our statutory planning quarterly report, and I'll again invite Director Van also to deliver that report and recommendation, please.
Thank you, Mayor Straub. This report provides Council with a summary of planning permit application activities during the fourth and third quarter of the 24-25 financial year. Planning staff have completed 100% of applications within the 60-day statutory timeframe. That is 30% above the rural average of only 69.7%. The median processing days to a determination for the quarter was 27 days. It's a fantastic job by Council's planning team. The officer's recommendation before you is that Council receive and note the quarterly statutory planning permit activity report for January to March 2025. Thank you, Mayor Straub.
Thank you, Director Van. Also, I'd just like to say before I invite other councillors that those processing timeframes have always been high. You've always hit a very high standard with the minimum days there. It's a credit to the team and the ability to process such a high level of applications, and the report shows the sheer level of projects and investment that our constituents are investing back into our communities and into their own dwellings and projects across the municipality. So thank you for that report. We always do look forward to that, and always sets a high benchmark. Councillors, is there any questions? Councillor Wilson with a question.
I don't have a question. I've got more of a comment. It's an excellent result to see that we've got 100% of these activities completed within the 60 days. I am aware, though, that I don't think the community necessarily understands the process of how that clock starts on day number one and can stop when we refer planning applications out to other agencies who then have different timeframes. So from a community perspective, I think we still get feedback that the planning process takes so long. So what I'm hoping that we might be able to see is some more comms around this process so the community can understand the stopping and the starting of the clock so that we really can evidence the terrific job that our planning team does. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. No further questions. I'm going to ask if the councillor is prepared to move to that report. Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Is there a councillor prepared to second the motion? Thank you, Councillor Angelo. Sorry, CEO got in the way. Councillor Wilson, did you want the opportunity to speak any further to your motion?
No, thank you, Matt.
Councillor Angelo? Any other councillor wishing to speak for or against? I'll ask for a show of hands in favour of that information report, and that is carried. We'll move straight along to 11.4, the Public Health Quarterly Activity Report, and I'll ask Director Gladman, please, to deliver that report and recommendation.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, this is the third quarterly report for the 24-25 financial year, which reviews the period 1 January to 31 March 2025 and summarises public health activities within the Community Services Department, providing Council with a high-level summary. During this reporting period, there's been a continuation of the interim EHO arrangements, with Council continuing to provide regular contact with business operators, community groups, homeowners and developers. Activities undertaken during the quarter included inspecting registered premises, issuing septic tank permits, undertaking complaint investigations, as were detailed in the tables included in the report. Councillors, the recommendation is that Council receive and note the Public Health Quarterly Activity Report. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Director Gladman. Councillors, are there any questions at this point in time regarding that report? If not, I'll ask for a councillor to please move motion to the recommendation in front of us. Thank you, Councillor Angelo. A councillor to second. Thank you, Councillor Holt. Councillor Angelo, give you the opportunity to speak to your motion. Councillor Holt, any other councillors wishing to speak? I'll ask for a show of hands in favour, and that is carried as well. 11.5, the Building Services Quarterly Activity Report. Director Van also, please.
Thank you, Mayor Straub. This report summarises the hard work undertaken of our municipal building surveyor, demonstrating the number of permits issued and progress in compliance matters for a third quarter of the 2024-25 financial year. The officer recommendation before you is that Council receive and note the quarterly building services activity report. Thank you, Mayor Straw.
Thank you, Director Van. Also, councillors, opportunity to ask any questions. If not, a councillor prepared to move to the recommendation. Thank you, Councillor Holt. And was that Councillor Weaver to second? Thank you. Councillor Holt, opportunity to speak. Councillor Weaver. Any other councillor? I'll ask for a show of hands in favour. And that is carried. 11.6, Local Laws and Planning Compliance Quarterly Activity Report. Director Gladman, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Again, this is the third report for the 24-25 financial year, and it summarises the animal control, local laws, planning, compliance and enforcement actions taken within the Community Services Department for the first quarter of the year, 1 January to 31 March 2025, providing Council with a high-level summary for the purposes of monitoring performance. The report provides the details of activities undertaken across administrative, unsightly properties, animal management and planning compliance areas. And the quarter has seen, particularly in the untidy properties, the quarter has seen 19 of the previously identified untidy properties resolved, with council officers continuing to work with a further 18 properties. The animal control team have seen an uptick in activity over this quarter, and in that area I would particularly like to highlight 144 complaints addressed, including 63 incidences of wandering or trespassing livestock and 3 dog attacks, 152 animals impounded, including 107 livestock, 13 dogs, 16 cats and 16 feral animals, and of those 130 animals were rehoused or returned to owners. The recommendation is that Council receive and note the Local Laws and Planning Compliance Quarterly Activity Report. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Director Gladman. Councillors, any questions regarding that report? No. Director Gladman, excuse if the details in there, those figures regarding impoundments in particular and pretty much the impounded animals seems on the rise. Is there any pattern emerging at the moment regarding that?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. That's an accurate observation. It certainly has been a busy month. I think part of that has come down to the fact that we have got a fully staffed team now, where we have in the past have had vacancies within the team. We've also had a really proactive community who is reporting situations that we need to respond to, and the team are really quite proactive in terms of following up, particularly where we've had dealings with similar situations and recurring animal wandering and returning, particularly things like dogs, to owners. So obviously these are the statistics that hit the agenda, but there's also a lot of work that the team does where they can return animals to property owners without entering through the pound as well. So it has been a busy quarter, and looking at what's been occurring since this report was put together, it's continuing.
Thank you, Director Gladman. And the rehoming figures too are quite enticing too. Great job. Councillors, if there's no further questions, I'll ask if there's a councillor prepared to move to that information report. Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Councillor happy to second that report. Councillor Weaver. Thank you. Councillor Wilson, opportunity to speak to your motion.
No, thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Weaver.
No, thank you, Mayor.
Any other councillors wishing to speak for or against? I'll ask for a show of hands in favour. That is carried. 11.7, the Strategic Planning Quarterly Report. Director Van also, please.
Thank you, Mayor Straw. This report provides an overview of the activities of the Strategic Planner between January and March 2025. The report highlights the progress of the strategic projects previously reported to Council. The Officer's recommendation before you is that Council receive and note the Strategic Planning Quarterly Activity Report for January to March 2025. Thank you, Mayor Straub.
Thank you, Director Van Orso. Councillors, opportunity to ask any questions. If not, Councillor prepared to move. Thank you, Councillor Weaver, was it? Prepared to move. Thank you. Councillor to second. Thank you, Councillor Angelo. Councillor Weaver, would you like to speak? Councillor Angelo? Any other councillor wishing to speak? I'll ask for a show of hands in favour. That is carried. 11.8, the Annual Infrastructure Program and Flood Recovery Quarterly Report Update. Again, Director Van Orso, please.
Thank you, Mayor Straub. At the end of quarter 3, March 31st, 2025, 58 projects or 81% of projects are completed, with 12 out of the remaining 14 projects in progress. In Attachment 1, this contains a detailed list of the projects that forms the annual infrastructure program, resulting in positive progress. I look forward to presenting a final program report to Council at the conclusion of quarter 4. The flood restoration program is progressing well following initial delays due to claims process. Contractors are on the ground and the team is coming to a point where the negotiation for the costs of the certified estimates are agreed to by Loddon Shire Council and the Department of Transport and Planning through disaster recover funding arrangements. This has allowed progress into the operational stage of the program and through a coordinated approach of the contractors completing one works package and moving directly into another package of work following the procurement process. It must be said that Loddon Shire Council team and the team from the Department of Transport and Planning have developed a good working relationship through this process that has led to agreeable outcomes. Based on the number of individual sites in the program, we expect Loddon Shire Council will be requesting an extension of time to the program brought about by initial delays caused by external processes and arrangements. Further details can be found in the report. The officer recommendation before you is that Council note the progress of the Annual Infrastructure Program 2024-2025 and Flood Restoration Program as of March 2025. Thank you, Mayor Straub.
Thank you, Director Van Orso. And that detailed report is quite, I'm quite happy regarding the situation we're in, even last year with the funding arrangements and the uphill battle we had to get those applications assessed and then delivered. It is really encouraging to see that we're getting to the end of this now slowly, but we are getting funded, or reimbursed is probably a better word, through the DRFA, and I am very happy that we're able to get those works done, delivered, get our network back in order, and we've been funded adequately to do so. And I think all that hard work and effort advocating for the funding arrangements has paid off, so we're getting there. Councillors, opportunity to ask any questions. Councillor Wilson.
I'll just make a comment. It wasn't originally included in the flood recovery program because it wasn't assessed by the state as warranting remediation, but the Derby Serpentine Road work, which has been agreed that it would be done, is not on the report.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Councillor Wilson, you said it was more of a comment, but is there a question in there you'd like addressed at this point?
Possibly why is the Derby Serpentine Road not on the report? Thank you.
I will refer to Mr Fitzgerald.
Yeah, thank you, and it's quite an astute observation. So, Councillor Wilson, when the flood occurred in October 2022, we had to go out to the Derby Serp Road and undertake some immediate restoration work, essentially, to make it safe. So, I can't remember if it was emergency works or immediate works. What that's triggered is it's allowed us to go back to the DRFA, who initially declined our request to essentially replace the structure that's there. So it was going to be an entirely council-funded project, and you can imagine the challenges when there's such large amounts of money involved. What we have been able to negotiate with them is to say, well, if we continue to just fix what's there, we will continue to sustain damage to this asset every time we repair it, and it's a waste of time and money, quite frankly. So what we've been able to do is negotiate that council will make a contribution, and we will be able to access some betterment funding to actually install an improved structure into that area. So they're designing that at the moment. I do believe that we are working through the process of approvals and exactly what volume of money will be involved in that. So you will see it show up on future reports, I would imagine. However, it may be also seen within a package of work. It may not be itemised, depending on the size of it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Fitzgerald. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mr Fitzgerald, for that. I'm sure the community that use and have been denied access on that road will be very happy to hear that. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. I'll ask councillors if someone is prepared to please move a motion to the effect. Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Councillor to second. Thank you, Councillor Weaver. Councillor Wilson, I'll give you the opportunity to speak if you'd like. Councillor Weaver. Any other councillor wishing to speak? If not, I'll ask for a show of hands in favour, and that is carried. Excellent. Thank you very much. Councillors, we have one compliance report for consideration today. 12.1 is the Audit and Risk Committee update. Director Stedman, please, if you could deliver that report and recommendation.
Thank you, Mayor Straub. Councillors, for your receipt and noting today is a summary of the most recent meeting of the Loddon Shire Council Audit and Risk Committee, along with the committee's biannual report as required by the Loddon Shire Audit and Risk Committee Charter. The committee has considered a number of key policies, reports and audit programming over the last 6 months, including a number of key internal audit reviews presented in December. Councillors, the recommendation with you today is that Council receives and notes the summary of the Audit and Risk Committee meeting from the 5th of May 2025 and the Audit and Risk Committee biannual report May 2025. Thank you, Councillors. Mayor Straub.
Thank you, Director Stedman. And councillors, as we're well aware, we were privileged enough to have a briefing this morning by the current chair of the Audit and Risk Committee, Marg Allen, in the chamber to take us through this report, and we do thank her for her time in that. Is there any questions, councillors, regarding the report before I put it to ask for a motion to put the report? No questions? Is there a councillor prepared to move a motion? Thank you, Councillor Angelo. A councillor to second. Thank you, Councillor Weaver. Councillor Angelo, I'll give you the opportunity to speak to your motion.
No thanks, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Weaver.
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Any other councillor wishing to speak for or against? I'll ask for a show of hands in favour, and that is carried. Thank you, councillors. Now, councillors, we have one matter to admit as urgent business for consideration today. And firstly, we need a motion to consider this as urgent business. And can I please have a motion that council admits an urgent business, a matter relating to the implementation of the Emergency Services Volunteer Fund. So councillors, we need a motion to, thank you, Councillor Weaver and Councillor Wilson that seconded that. I'll ask for a show of hands in favour that that is considered as a matter of urgent business, and that is carried. Thank you, councillors. I will introduce the urgent business motion for us to consider this afternoon. And I do thank all councillors for your input in the creation of this 4-point motion. Councillors, I believe we have all been circulated the updated 4-point motion. If you'll bear with me, I will read the motion for us to consider. Urgent business motion that Council 1 reiterates our objections from the 25th of March to the proposed introduction of the Apparent Emergency Services Volunteer Fund levy in its current form due to the significant unfair and inequitable impacts it will have on the Shire's farming, commercial and industrial sectors. 2, call on the state government to listen to our community and immediately repeal the implementation of the Emergency Services Volunteer Fund levy bill. 3, as the bill is awaiting royal assent, we call on Professor the Honourable Margaret Gardner, AC, Governor of Victoria, to exercise her received powers and not sign this bill into law. And 4, authorise the Mayor to write to all Victorian councils, Rural Councils Victoria, the Municipal Association of Victoria, seeking them to unite and, as a collective, oppose the collection of the Emergency Services Volunteer Fund levy. Councillors, that is the motion before us. We've all got that on our computers. We've read all 4 points. Thank you, Mr Fitzgerald. Councillors, I will put that motion for a councillor happy to move and second. Councillor Wilson to move. Thank you very much. Councillor Weaver to second. Let me catch up here. Councillor Wilson, I will give you the opportunity to speak to your motion, please.
Thank you, Councillor Mayor Straub and other councillors. Firstly, just to reiterate that the Loddon Shire firstly objected to this levy/tax on the 25th of March at our meeting. A levy is generally defined as a temporary measure to raise revenue and provide for a social purpose or mitigate a crisis, which is generally supported and understood by society. 1, this is not a temporary measure. 2, the referred to crisis is the mismanagement of the state's finances by the Allen government. And 3, it is not supported or understood by the community/society. This is not a tax, it is a levy. Penalising primary producers by increasing property taxes by anywhere up to 189%, and in Loddon Shire the rate is 112% for primary producers and 57% for commercial properties, a farmer's land, which is their primary tool of business. This tax punishes this business tool unjustly and unfairly. We ask the state government to repeal this despicable tax, which is so inequitable. We will also be writing to the Governor of Victoria to use the reserve powers available to that role to not sign the legislation into law until such time that some review and consultation with local government has occurred. Local government who have been reduced to the government's tax agency for collection and management of this tax. The state must know how bad and wrong this tax is, otherwise they would not have shut down all the avenues of refusal, rejection or dispute by putting the collection and management of the tax through local councils. I am happy to risk my role as a councillor to stop this tax.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Councillor Weaver.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and very well said, Councillor Wilson. I think we have to do whatever we can to oppose this as strongly as we can. And it's an honour to second this motion on behalf of the ratepayers of Loddon. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Weaver. Councillor Angelo, would you like the opportunity to speak?
I did speak earlier, Mr Mayor, but just to go back on it, the community, this is just unjust and unfair, and all councils need there's 79 councils in Victoria. There's strength in numbers. We need to, as they keep saying, axe the tax, because that's what it is. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Angelo. Councillor Holt?
Yeah, look, thanks, Mr Mayor. I'm sure all of us, if it had been possible, would have liked to move and or second this motion. I've discussed this tax or levy at length with many members of the Loddon community, and as I said earlier in the day, I don't think I've ever seen the people of Loddon as animated in response to a piece of government legislation as they are animated by this piece of government legislation. I don't want to repeat comments previously made by councils, but it is important that we reassure our ratepayers, all ratepayers, because all ratepayers are impacted by this. It's a disproportionately high impost on our larger property owners, or property owners per se, but our ratepayers need to be assured that we will do whatever we can within our powers to see this legislation repealed. It was never part of Loddon Shire's tradition to go political on matters, but this one's rather exceptional. We tried outlining our objections to this piece of legislation behind closed doors. That didn't work. We then got on the front foot a month ago, over a month ago, and made our opposition to this proposal known, and that's what we're doing again today. So I fully endorse the motion, and I particularly look forward to our rural council brothers and sisters strongly supporting us in this campaign to have this tax repealed. It is in effect a massive increase in the bill that people have to pay on their rate notice. It's quite simple, and the view would be that all members of society equally receive the benefits of emergency services, and so disproportionately asking some members of society to pay as the sole means of community contribution to this service is unreasonable, completely unreasonable, and I think it's still part of Australian ethos. Is called the fair go, and rural Australians in particular have still got a very, very strong sense of the fair go, and this is not. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Holt, and thank you, councillors, for your contribution to this motion this afternoon. I will take a brief moment to talk in favour of this motion myself and reiterate the message that Loddon Shire Council, we were on the front foot. We were on the front foot with our advocacy behind closed doors, directly to the Premier, within our community, talking to our community groups, our local VFF groups, the VFF President. We kept getting roadblocks along the way. We all united and travelled to Melbourne together to show a strong voice to state government that we do not accept this unfair tax on the ratepayer. We do not accept this unfair onus on local government as a collection agency. We now have moved, and I think actions speak louder than words, and I probably should take the opportunity to apologise to all the callers and emailers that have flooded my voicemail and inbox with concerns, and all rightly noted. I've read and listened to all those concerns and emails that have come in. I equally haven't responded to anybody because I wanted to make sure that our actions spoke louder than our words, and moving this motion today has definitely done that. This is a direct result of what the community has been asking Loddon for, to stay strong in this matter. And those 4 dot points calling on the state government to listen and immediately repeal this unfair tax on our community and the unfair way it is administered through local government is apparent. In saying that, I'll ask for a show of hands in favour of this motion. And that is carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Councillors, moving on, there is no confidential items for consideration today. And with saying that, we can now move to closing today's meeting. Council has now addressed all items listed on today's agenda, including a very important urgent business motion, and I declare the meeting closed today at 4:47 p.m. Thank you all very, very much. Thank you to our gallery, and thank you to all the constituents live streaming in.